Forehead Fables Episode 1. Hello, everyone. This is General Sam, and I have made a podcast. Now, I know you all are excited because the concept of a YouTuber making a podcast is a new one. No one's ever done it before, but, I've always felt like I was a trailblazer, someone brave, pushing boundaries that nobody else has pushed before. And so I decided to make this podcast. No, really, the real reason is I went on that Aqua's podcast, right? I was like, hey, he was like, I'm starting a podcast. I guess I need a guest. And I said, hey, you know what? I'll cut you a favor. I'll be a guest on your podcast. I'll be the first one. And then you'll have a long line of other guests, and people will look back at the first episode to see what it was like. And they'll see me there, and they'll be like, Sam was there supporting them from the beginning. Isn't that nice? Well, he did like 2 more episodes, and then he fucking quit. So that sucked. And then that guy narrator, he used to have a podcast with Call Me Carson, right? That guy's a poppin' YouTuber, and then they had a falling out, and so narrator started his own podcast, and I was like, this guy has his roots run deep in the podcasting world, and I think his podcast is going to go far. He's got experience in it, so I decided to be the first guest on his podcast, and I gave it my all, and I was thinking, when his podcast has been going on for years, people are going to look back on the first episode and they'll see me and they'll say, man, this guy was here supporting him from the beginning. Turns out he only did 3 episodes or so, and then he quit too. I am tired of being the first guest on everyone's stupid failed podcast. Not anymore. All right, I'm making my own podcast where if this is the one and only episode, then I'll be the first guest on my own podcast. I got a series of stories we can talk about, though. You guys want to hear that? That's awesome. That's fantastic news because I'm doing it regardless of whether or not you want me to or not. A couple things you have to look forward to. One, this podcast has no sponsors yet. So you're not going to have to hear me fucking whack off Honey or the Man Great or any of those other not Spotify. What's the one where people need to build a shitty website? Wix or something like that. You don't need to hear me hawk any of that right now. So we're sponsorless at this point. I just got to say, I've been building this podcasting rig, I guess, desk area set up with the shelves and everything for like the past month. And I'd always followed on, I don't know if you guys go on Reddit. I've always followed like those battle station subreddits where it's like people with a nice desk and they have the nice setup and everything with the nice PC and everything's fucking RGB, dude. Yeah, I got LEDs. And now I just had a realization because I was making this and I was like, hey, you know what? If this podcast ends up sucking, I don't want to have to spend like thousands of dollars on it. So I'm going to cheap out, you know me. Runs in my bloodline, so I decided to go to IKEA, the kings of making shitty furniture that's cheap. And I went down there, had some Swedish meatballs, and procured this desk, which it was like a build your own desk, where you get like the top was $39 for a desktop. It's $39, and then the legs were each like $9 a piece. And I slapped this thing together. And then I realized after looking at it that every single desk in those battle station threads, which these are supposed to be the Lamborghinis of PC gaming, right? These fuckers all have IKEA desks. So when I was going out of my way to buy cheap-ass furniture, all these like top-of-the-line desks that people use are all cheap-ass furniture. I can't look at it the same now. And they're all this, it's the same shit. They all have the same crappy desk I got, which is a wobbly mess. And then they always have that stupid fake plastic plant next to their monitors, in case they want to relax after they get blown up by a creeper. Point is that I got this thing set up and I follow Battle Station threads on Reddit, but I don't do it anymore because I've discovered that there's porn on Reddit. And so now I'm scared that my Reddit account's going to be hacked because there's a lot of gross porn I follow on there. It's not good. All right, I've been collecting stories to go through, stuff I want to talk about for this podcast. Very important shit, pressing matters. Some of it's old, some of it's new, but we're going to start out with No, that one's dumb. Let's start out with this lady from the LA Times, right? This happened a couple months ago, and I always thought it was hilarious because of the way people view things from the wrong angle. Or maybe, I'm just an insensitive ass. But this lady, she's pretty cute too. She was at a bar, and she was drunk as shit, and she ends up getting in, she calls an Uber, and this SUV pulls up, and she hops in there, and and then she gets killed by her driver. And everybody, of course, is up in arms against Uber. They're like, why would you let this guy kill her, this driver? Well, it turns out the guy didn't even work for Uber. He was just pulled up in front of the bar, and this drunk bitch gets in his car, and he just drives away with her and goes and kills her. Now, first of all, that guy was out hunting for someone. If the second someone just hops in their car, he just goes, I'm going to kill this bitch, and drives away with her. And everybody's talking about how Uber needs to change their policies. Uber needs to do better background checks. Uber needs to add a giant pink mustache to the front of their cars like Lyft does. Something to differentiate a normal car from an Uber driver. Well, Uber's like, well, first of all, we give you the license plate number when you call in a thing. You have a picture of your fucking driver, and it tells you the kind of car. This lady was just too fucking drunk to even follow any basic safety requirements. She probably, just look at the guy's face and hop in the car and go, oh, that's not the right dude. It doesn't matter. The point is that everybody's looking at this the wrong way. They're grieving for this poor woman. When what they should really think about is, for those of you that are psychopaths out there, being a serial killer has never been this easy. Why spend all this time planning and scheming and tracking down a person? Trying to separate them from the herd of society so you can, bring them out somewhere and kill them. When you could easily just pull up in front of a bar and act like an Uber driver for 30 seconds before you get someone in your car. That guy had been hunting for months. And then he just, some unlucky idiot just hops in his car. And now, if he wasn't caught, that guy would be there the next night. He would be. He would be pulling up again the next night. In this world of people relying on technology to the point where their basic survival instincts are out the window, man, being a serial killer's never been so goddamn easy. If only forensic files and stuff wasn't around, we wouldn't be catching killers as often. Not that that's a bad thing. I've always been kind of concerned because my wife watches those. She listens to those podcasts, right? Day in, who the fuck even deals with podcasts? That shit's for idiots. Day in, day out, our goddamn phone bill keeps going up, and we're running out of data 5 days into the billing cycle. And it's because she hates her job, and she sits there and listens to true crime podcasts all the time. And it's an hour long, and so they go into grisly, horrific detail. And she's a little country girl. I figured she was squeamish about stuff. She sees a spider, and she used to scream, and now she sees a spider and gets a hungry, ravenous look in her eye as she viciously stomps it into the ground. These podcasts have changed her for the worse. She's become... she scares me, to be honest. So all these things she watches, they go into grisly detail. And she's getting a bloodlust over there. And then she watches, when she gets home from that, after a hard day of listening to people kill other people, she watches Forensic Files on TV. The show that basically shows you how a killer got away with it, and then the one fuck up they did to get caught. And so she's like, okay, just do what that guy did, but don't do that part. And so, and I have a fear that one day she's gonna become the perfect serial killer. She's gonna get me. I'm gonna wake up in a 55-gallon drum on my way to the Gulf of Mexico. That's what always cracked me up. There's this guy that he got away with it. Okay, of all the people that you see on Forensic Files, they're usually pretty smart people, right? This one dude gets away with murder for like 20 years. I don't have this pulled up in front of me, so I'm gonna fuck this one up. It was way more than 20 years, by the way. This happened in like the 70s, and then he ended up getting caught in like 2000 and something. So it was at least like 30 something years. Anyway, so in the 70s, he ran a nice business up in New York, and he had a bunch of immigrant workers there. And one of them, he was a married dude with a family. One of them, he ended up banging, and then he got her pregnant. And she was like, hey, you knocked me up. It's time to divorce your family or whatever, some stupid shit she said. And he says, okay, I'll do that. Meet me here at night in the abandoned factory you work at. And she was like, hey, this guy... He's a swell guy. He knocked me up. He's not going to do anything bad. So he stuffs her into a 55-gallon drum, and he throws her wallet and everything in there. He drops his own like ID in there or something, and really fucked up. And it's a 55-gallon drum that has his company name on the side, and he ends up sealing her in there with a bunch of his own product, and then he goes to lift her into the back of his truck, throws his back out, right? And so he brings her all the way home and unloads her from the back of the truck. And he's like, man, I'm gonna put her on the boat, bring her out to the Gulf, and or bring her out to the ocean, dump her in the middle of the ocean. But man, my back really hurts. I'll just stuff her under the house for now. So he puts her in the crawl space. And his wife was like, hey, whatever happened to that harlot that you knocked up? And he's like, don't worry, bitch, I took care of it. And so she's like, all right, that's fine. And so then they lived there for like another 10 years. They sold the house, and when the people wanted to go buy the house, they're like, hey, what's this 55-gallon drum under the house? And he was like, I don't know, it's some shit. And they were like, okay. They never looked in it. They owned the house for 10 years. They ended up selling it, and the new people were like, hey, what's in that 55-gallon drum under the house? And they were like, I don't know, when I bought the place, it was there. And so the new people bought it in the 90s, and they lived there, and then they were going to sell it, and the guy was like, hey, I want to clean this place up, make it look all nice for the inspector. So he started taking this 55-gallon drum out to the street, and the garbage man went to go pick it up and was like, man, this thing's heavy as shit. What, you got like a dead body in here? I'm not taking this. And so the owner was like, fine, I'll empty it out. So he opens it up, and there it is, a pregnant woman dead in there. She's been in there for 30 years. And so then Forensic Files, they're doing all this. What's funny is they didn't really even do any, like, I don't see why this was an episode to air on Forensic Files. Forensic Files, every episode is supposed to be this badass display of like new science. And this episode was them just going like, they open up the 55-gallon drum and they go, oh, yeah, there's a dead lady here. Her ID's in the thing. They like pull out her ID. They're like, her name's Maria. And then on the side of the drum, it says the guy's business. And so they go track down his business license. They're like, oh, an old abandoned warehouse. The guy retired. They found some lady that used to live near Maria. And she's like, oh, yeah, I wondered where she went. She got knocked up by the boss. His name is Vito. And so then they were like, all right, Vito, where's he at? Turns out he lives in Florida. They roll down there to the house, and they just like knock on his door. They're like, hey, can we get a DNA sample to see if you match the DNA of this knocked up bitch in this drum we found? And Vito was like, no. So the cop said, all right, hey, we're going to go get a warrant. We'll be right back. And then you're going to prison for life. And he said, okay. And as they were driving away in their car, they heard him shoot himself in the face. That guy, a tragic story for sure. But that guy got away for 35 years by doing a series of fuck-ups. There was not a single part of his plan that went okay, except for him strangling the bitch, which I don't even know if that was his intention or if he was just going to pay her off and she wouldn't take the money or something. But that was, I just know if I sit there and plan it for weeks at a time, I'm gonna go to do it, and I'm gonna get caught because I left a skin cell, on the carpet. And of course, they're gonna do that CSI thing where the guy walks in, and of course, I end up having like that Asperger's CSI worker that sees things that other people can't see. He's going to do the enhanced zoom on the carpet and see my skin flake. And then he's going to find me through a DNA thing. And, DNA, perfect segue into our next section. All right, listen to this thing. This one's a whole nother meme. By the way, I know I sat there and bitched and moaned about true crime shows, and then I ended up doing nothing but talk about true crime stuff, but that doesn't matter. Don't worry about that, because this next one is hilarious to me. I know you guys have heard about the Golden State Killer, right? He was caught like a year ago. Well, if you haven't, I'm going to go through his credentials real quick. The Golden State Killer, he was a serial killer, rapist, and burglar who committed 13 murders, more than 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries in California from 1974 to 1986. And he's believed to be responsible for at least 3 crime sprees throughout California. This guy was he was like the most wanted dude. And then they caught him last year because of, get this. This is like I saw an entire documentary on this thing, and it cracked me up because of how it was so simple yet so genius at the same time. They had been investigating this dude, trying to figure out something about him for decades. And this one investigator opens up the cold case file to get some fresh eyes on it. And she just like pulls out this thing that has known DNA, his DNA on it. And she goes, I'm going to put this into a 23andMe and Ancestry. You know, those DNA kits where you like figure out where your family is and stuff, if you're an orphan or if you want to figure out your nationality. She just goes like, I'll just submit it into that and see if any of his relatives have done the same thing. And so she orders the kits, rubs his rapey sperm all over it, sends it back in, and then they send her back. Like, I don't even think she told them she was the police. They sent her back all this stuff like, oh, here's his cousin, and so then she was like, all right, I got known relatives. I'll just go up and figure out who their cousins are. And she asked like 2 people, and they were like, yeah, I guess it's this creepy cousin of mine. He always gave me a rapey vibe, and then they arrested him. They looked at him, and he matched everything, and then they got a DNA test, and it matched the ones from the crime scenes, and they caught the guy. Which that opens up a whole crazy gate to future crimes, because before it was like, as long as you keep clean and you're not part of any sort of like crime spree where your DNA gets put in the system, you should be free to do any crazy crimes, as long as you don't get caught, right? And now it seems like if I go to do a crazy crime, I know my uncle, my blood relative uncle, he had gotten one of those DNA tests done. Motherfucker basically barred me from being like a crazy serial killer, unless I'm really clean about it and use bleach and everything. But the second they get my DNA, those lazy ass investigators are going to send it off to 23andMe, figure out my uncle, and then they're going to go, all right, it's either you or your brother. Thankfully, I'm the clean cut one. You've seen my brother. He's got tattoos and everything. They'd lock him up in a heartbeat. And when it came down to the court case, I'd be sitting in the rows behind, the defense, and he'd be looking at me, pleading for help with his eyes. I wouldn't say a word. I'd let him go to prison. But with those tattoos, he would fare much better than me in prison. Jesus Christ, I would get torn to pieces. My nerdy ass. Yeah, that wouldn't work out. Anyways, yeah, so they caught this guy from doing a DNA test. I think that's all. Oh, wait, no. There was another thing I wanted to touch on. The reason they didn't catch him for so many years is you need to see this guy's sketches. Like how the police do sketch artists, or the police hire sketch artists, and they always ask people, really personal questions like, what exactly did your rapist look like? And they were asking him, and I'm looking at these because this guy went on a giant spree, right? He was just dude was a real loser. He couldn't get any consensual sex, but he went raping, and they asked all these people for I guess an eyewitness look of what he looked like, and then the sketch artist drew it up over the course of his entire criminal career. And either this guy is a shapeshifter, or the sketch artists suck, or those people that got raped have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. This shit is all over the place in terms of what he looks like. What cracks me up here is there's one where he looks like one of the cast members from Gilligan's Island. One, he looks like he belongs in Lords of Dogtown, you know? He just looks like a surfer bro. Another one, he's like a sailor guy. And then all of a sudden, there's just like this random one where the sketch artist didn't even really draw a human. They got like a manga artist from a Lupin the Third manga from like 1974 to come in and draw this guy. And he's got on like this helmet thing with a chin strap. It doesn't even look like a human. It looks like some fucking weird ass anime villain. And they actually use that. Imagine being a cop and with a straight face holding that up and going, have you seen this fucking guy? No, I've never seen another human that looks like that. I don't think I've ever, like, it has eyeballs. That's about it. Besides that, it looks nothing like a person I've ever seen. But apparently what it is the black thing. He wore like a balaclava, but it was the whole point of wearing a balaclava while you're doing crimes is, one would think, is to cover your distinguishing features. And this guy had a balaclava that it covered everything except for his fucking face. It like his eyes, his nose, and his mouth were all sticking out of it. It was kind of like I don't know. It was like when you pull your shirt up over your head, and so you're doing that like Beavis and Butthead thing, the Bung Julio thing, and you just have your face sticking out. That's what it looked like. And somehow he still eluded capture. This guy, more than anything, it just seems like police negligence. You know, just like that lady that died in the 55-gallon drum. This guy just lucked out. Bad sketch artists and bad memories led to this guy just chilling for a long time. Ripe old age. Oh, and if you look at his the mugshot of like the day he was caught, motherfucker looks nothing like any of these sketch artists. There was not a single one where he looked anything similar. Now, to be honest, I've been yakking away here, and then I remembered, I don't really know how long a podcast is supposed to go. Is this supposed to be like an hour-long thing? Because I can talk for a goddamn hour, dude. You can't stop me. Don't even think for a minute. Don't even think for a minute you can stop me. But, and I really haven't picked out a theme yet. I figured I would just talk about stuff, whatever came to mind. But since we're already on a very morbid streak of us just basically making fun of people dying, I found this. I just have a long list of shit that is like not. I'm not like a commentary channel, a reaction channel on YouTube. So whenever I find something that I think is kind of funny, I'm not going to make a video about it where I just talk about it. I figured I'd save that for the podcast. And then, but this one is. I don't want to say it cracks me up. Well, it is kind of funny. It's kind of funny, but it's also pretty tragic. It's an Instagram fitness model. This one's from 2 years ago now. God damn, I've been saving these up for a while. This one's from 2 years ago. And really what brings this around is, I'm going to do the whole story. I'm going to do the whole thing. So have you guys ever found someone that you just fucking clicked with, like a real bro, where you're talking to them and everything's just going all right? And it's really hard for guys because I feel like women can go up there and just be like, oh my God, your tits look amazing. And then best friends instantly, And for guys, it's totally different because there's so many weird things that guys can be into. And really, if they're different a whole lot, then it just ain't going to work. You ain't got nothing in common, right? But women are basically all into Forever 21, puppies, and Pinterest, arts and crafts. Those are the 3 female interests in life. And by God, they're all going to get along. But guys, there's so many varied things that guys can be into. Like some of us like whacking off to big titty bitches, and some of us like whacking off to big assed bitches. Now, if I have any friends that are into asses exclusively, you need to tell me, because it's just not going to work out. I'm afraid it won't work. Anyways, so I went to Target, and at our Target we have Starbucks. And at this Starbucks, I'll have any excuse to go to Target with Abby. That's like the one place when she goes out that I'll go with her, because there's Starbucks there, right? And so usually it's just some lady working at Starbucks or one of those hipster barista guys. But this time there was just a bro. You could tell he was just a guy. He was a funny guy that was working there, and this dude was fucking hilarious. And he had a sense of humor too. And so he's, I'm ordering my no soy latte. No, I don't even order my own drink. I have Abby order it for me because I forget what I like. But it's something to do with coffee. But she ends up ordering, and then the guy's making it for me, and I'm talking to him, and he pulls out that thing to put the whipped cream on top. And they don't use, it's Starbucks. They got to use the nice shit. So it's like this hard metal canister, and then it has like the whipped cream in it, and then they put in like the compressed air thing, the whip it thing, and they put that in the bottom, screw it in, and then they use that as a aerosol propulsion system to push out the cream. So I don't know the science of it. So he's sitting there doing that, and I was like, his manager was behind him, and I said it a little bit loud. I go, hey, did you hear about that dumb bitch that died using one of those? And I think it caught him off guard because he thought it was hilarious. He was like, he almost couldn't put in the whipped cream into his drink. He thought it was funny. And he was like, yeah, I heard about that. And what it is this Instagram lady, she was a model. She's French, and she's like a fitness model. She had so many followers. She was, if that's how you do your value or whatever. She had a bunch of followers. She was adored by many, and she was beautiful too. Because it is more tragic when a beautiful person dies. If she was some ugly bitch, I would laugh about it. But no, I'm heartbroken here. And this lady, was putting whipped cream on something, and with one of those where you put the compressed air thing in there, and it like blew up in her hand, and the canister itself just hit her in the chest. Actually, the article says the thorax, which I didn't know she was a fucking insect, but it hit her in the chest, and it stopped her heart, and then she died, and that was it. And I thought, dude, imagine working for years to get such a great peak of physical health that you're regarded as, like, people follow you on Instagram based purely on your level of fitness. That is a whole nother level, right? Like, if I ran like 5 miles a day, I'd be pretty trim, but nobody would follow me on Instagram because of how trim I was. You know what I mean? Like, she was another level fit, and she gets wiped out by a fucking whipped cream can. It just cracked me up. So anyways, I was telling this guy about that, and he was fucking laughing hard. His manager was behind him. Like, of course, she was one of those hipster bitches that works at Starbucks. She had her arms crossed, like frowning at him, but he couldn't see it because he was laughing. And then I was like, dude, to be honest, I would just be ashamed to, if I was like her parents, I wouldn't even hold a funeral, That's the equivalent of like, like every year there's people out there that order chips and stuff in a vending machine, and then they like shake it because the vending machine, like, it doesn't spin all the way, and it like steals your money, right? The chips don't fall. And so they shake the machine trying to get the chips to fall, and then the machine falls on them and kills them. That happens every year. There's like multiple people that die shaking vending machines. And imagine being those people's parents. You raise someone from the time they're a suckling little baby. All the way, like right now, my daughter, man, when they talk about like a parent's love for their child, they are absolutely right. It is that little bitch could turn out to be a serial killer, I'd still love her. I don't know why. There's some like unspoken bond between us. And imagine having that bond with someone where you watch them grow up, you feed them, they rely on you, and you're providing for them. And then they get out into the world. They're going on their own. You expect so much of them because you put 20 years of your life into just making sure they could survive. Right? And then they die by tipping over a vending machine trying to get some Doritos. I wouldn't even have a fucking funeral. I would just lie to people. I'd say, oh, he left to go fight ISIS. I would be ashamed. I would be fucking ashamed. I wouldn't have an open casket. I wouldn't have a funeral or anything. I would just say, yeah, he left to. I would say he left to join ISIS. I would be better with dealing with everybody else's scrutiny about how shitty a parent I am by my child going off to join ISIS than just the shame of raising somebody for so long just to have them dump a fucking vending machine on their own head. And you might think, oh yeah, but what about all those parents that like raise a kid and then they get killed by a drunk driver? That's different because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and somebody else fucked up and hit them. You know what I mean? Their life was ended by somebody else's negligence. But when you're shaking a vending machine, you're getting killed over 75 cents and your hunger for Doritos. That's what you're ultimately dying for. Anyway, so I said that I went through that whole spiel with him, and he was laughing and having a great time. And his manager was just like frowning, and she kept moving closer to him, just like peering over his shoulder. And this is the sad part, really. We were having a great time. I thanked him for his excellent beverage. You know, I did that thing where like he passes it to me, I go, and I like tasted it and gave him a thumbs up, and and then I walked out of there with Abby, and I told her, I was like, that guy's fucking cool. Like that's a dude that I would have over to, you know, watch some Dexters Lab on a Saturday morning. You know what I'm saying? And then we left out of there, and I go back to that Target at least once a week, and I haven't seen him since. I'm starting to think he might have gotten fired for laughing at some dumb French bitch getting killed by a whipped cream canister. You know, that sucks. It's like getting a potential friend snatched out of your life. Because let me tell you something. I don't have any, I'm talking any IRL friends. Zero. I don't have a single one. I have, you know, I got a bunch of internet friends, but if I actually, you know, wanted to have somebody come over, I don't have anybody. Completely alone in this world. Besides my fucking bitch wife and that kid. Jesus Christ. I'm kidding. I love them with, hey, Abby, if you're watching this first episode, she ain't gonna watch this. Fuck you. You know what I'm saying? She ain't gonna watch this. I got a story for you. Okay, so me and Abby were eating at this place in town called Nukes. And they do kind of, you know, who cares? It's just a place you sit down and eat. And we're sitting there munching away on some food. And why did I fucking start the story like that? No, okay, so we get out of our car and we're waltzing our way towards Nukes, right? And on our way in there, I find on the floor a wallet. And I said, this is an excuse for me to not wait in line. I said, babe, you order me a goddamn Italian sandwich. I'm going to go find us a table, and I'm going to figure out whose wallet this is and get it back to him. Because, you know, I'm a good guy. And I'd like to tell myself. And so she's like, okay. Really, all it was an excuse to not wait in line to order my food. I hate that. That's like the worst part of my week is anytime I'm at a restaurant waiting to tell them what I want to eat. So I sat down and I start going through this guy's wallet and no cash. This poor motherfucker. And that was my first of many disappointments in this story. So nothing I could steal. And then inside I see his ID. And so I'm like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Google this guy's name so I can figure out like a contact number. And And so I Google his name, and it pops up. The first thing that pops up is Tallahassee. That's where I live. Tallahassee booking report, which is like, when people get arrested, they go on the booking report. And it was his name. So I click on that link, and I was like, well, I don't want to return this guy's wallet if he's like a bad dude, I don't know if he was like a serial killer or something. So I'm looking at his booking report, and he got arrested for sexual contact with an animal pet. I forget exactly what was the wording there, but basically he's a dog fucker is what it was. He fucked his dog. And, I don't know about you guys, but holding a dog fucker's wallet, not very big on my to-do list. And more importantly, voluntarily meeting up with a dog fucker so I can return his wallet, it's pretty low on my to-do list too. So I was about ready to just chuck the wallet and go wash my hands. And then this guy comes running in all sweaty. Lo and behold, it's the guy that lost his wallet. And he actually ran. I found it in the parking lot. This is what's weird. I found it in the parking lot. And this guy immediately ran to our booth. I guess we were sitting in the booth that he happened to be sitting at when he lost his wallet. And he goes, hey, have you guys seen a wallet anywhere around here? And I said, yeah, actually, here it is. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. And he was like talking to me at length. And all I can think about is him getting all down and dirty with a Doberman, And so I'm like, I don't fucking want to talk to this guy. And then he insisted on shaking my hand. And he had little tiny Trump hands. Like, they were so small, dude. He had tiny, perfect for dog fucking when you think about it. Like, just great for grabbing him at the waist, And I had to shake his little dog fucker hands. And then my food came, and he's like, all right, guys, see ya. And so then my food's all nice and hot. I had to get up and go wash my hands, get all that nasty dog shit off of it. And I didn't feel good about that guy. There was no real resolution there or anything. I realized like halfway through telling the story, it's nothing but I just met a guy that had fucked a dog is really what it was. And I had to shake his hand. He offered to give me some money, and I said no because, I had already looked for money in his wallet. He didn't have any. I knew he didn't have any. But yeah, anyways, I think that's about it. I figured I'd start it off down and dirty, laughing at dead people. I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but who am I kidding? So anyways, this might be a solo thing, or, I might have a guest. And I'm not talking like a physical guest in the thing. I might have like a picture with like a green screen on it, so I'd have their face there. I might have a guest on the future episodes. So, tell me what you think. Tell me if you like this thing. And if you don't, fuck off and die.